Okay, it's working. So, I've been doing a lot of reading the last few days, and I've also been thinking a lot about what I've been learning about patterns from history regarding presently the power struggle that appears to be happening in Eastern Europe with the Jewish-controlled EU, the Jewish-controlled United States. And I was thinking about all these different survival strategies that I've seen different people advocating for on different podcasts, and we keep on thinking we need to go find a place to be strong where we can counter Jewish subversion from a center, a place where the homosexual agenda and the pedophile and transsexual agenda won't be pressed. And I realized there's already a place like that. It's called Russia. And I was thinking, okay, with what I've been learning about Russia and its liberation from the Jews during World War II and afterwards, and again after Yeltsin, the renewed liberation of the Russian people from the Jews, I realized there's already a Western country that's strongly anti-Jew. I was at Fisherman's Wharf, Pier 39, very recently, and came across some Russians, and I talked to them, and they were aware that the Jews had been behind the Holodomor and the Holocausts of all of the white Europeans in the Soviet Union and the elites and the murdering of all the priests and all that good stuff, and that they had been behind the perversion and that they had used orgies and sexual carnal stuff to get people to join the Communist Party and stuff. And I realized these Russians are woke. And this is true of pretty much all of the Russians I've come across, especially if they weren't raised in like a Pentecostal church here. And I realize you don't have to overpower the Jewish-controlled countries. You don't have to invade the countries that are zogged, that have Zionist-occupied governments. You just have to stand the test of time and be able to have a strong enough nuclear arsenal to defend your own territory. And the Russians have this. So as more and more people become black-pilled, and I've been talking to normal Trump supporters without revealing my power level or saying who I am, and they say there's a civil war coming. Even if they don't know about the Jews, they say things have gone too far, and they don't see a peaceful solution. And there's a place that isn't Jewed, a place where there's still strong moral value. It's called Russia, and the Jews are not subverting with feminism and this tranny stuff and this faggot shit, and all they have to do is not get invaded, and they win. White people or Western people or any people all over the world that are under a Zionist-occupied government that's being generated, if they just see one example of a strong country, even if it isn't going to war against all of the Jewish-controlled countries, they'll want what the Russians have. And trust me, I know a lot of us think back to 90s movies about economically depressed Russia under Yeltsin, and we think of Russian mail-order brides and Slavic mail-order brides. Trust me, in 5, 10, 15 years in this country, we are going to be looking with envious eyes over the country and civilization that the Russians still have, while we're degenerating. I don't think the Jews are going to come back to power in Russia, and I don't think they're in power right now. And I think Putin's actually going to start purging more Jews from power, even a few token Jewish billionaires that are there, that are left of the dozens of them that were there prior to Putin's rise. I think that all Russia needs to do, all we need to do to win, is to not let the Jews start a war with Russia. And I think if Putin passes from old age in 10 or 15 years, or he leaves power, I think the people that are going to come after him are going to be even more traditional and even more counter-Semitic and more anti-Jewish communism, more anti-Bolshevism, more anti-Jewish, frankly. Putin's reaching back to aristocratic traditions from the time of the Tsar. And I think all that we need to do is wait for our societies to get worse and worse as Russia continues to get better and better. And pretty soon, despite all the Jewish propaganda, we're going to be looking with envious and covetous eyes to what Russia has and say, can't we do that here? Russia is probably going to be the birthplace or the launching point for a new renaissance, for a new renewal of the ancient Roman traditions and the ancient Greek traditions, the ancient European traditions. Right now, there's an arc in this world where all of the good things from Europe are being preserved, and no matter what happens to our country, so long as we don't let the Jews drag us into a war with Russia, it will still be there, preserved, like seeds that can be planted again in our countries once the Jews are removed from power. And once we're so incapacitated, if the Jews get their way, we have trannies running our country, and we're already halfway there. I think Russia won't have to invade anywhere. The people will be begging for the Russians to invade. And that was my thoughts on that for the day. And I was thinking about the housing crisis now in California. I've been looking into apartments and stuff. You can't sell your boat while you're living on it, so I have to... and if you're a landlord, please reach out. I'll try and just not advertise where I'm at. I'm looking for a month-to-month arrangement where I can be near the Bay Area so I can come to and from my boat until it's sold. But I was thinking about the housing crisis. So think about this. Jews create speculative bubbles. They created the stock market speculative bubble of the 1920s that burst in 1929. They designed this, and they profited on the way up and on the way down with long selling and then short selling. They created the dot-com bust and boom, and they profited on both ways. And they created the real estate boom. And I had always just thought the Jews got real greedy with the real estate bubble, and I realized there's a bigger purpose for the real estate bubble. So what happened during the real estate bubble that was kept from bursting much longer than the Jews needed to make a bunch of money on the way up and on the way down? Why did the Jews sustain the real estate bubble for so long until it burst in the 2000s? Well, think about it. I think back to 2008, 9, 10, when no one had the money to buy them, but there were just millions of vacant houses, millions of vacant condos, millions of vacant apartments that had just been built up. And at the same time, our borders were made wide open. And I think now to California and the extreme pressure on the housing market because it's a sanctuary state. Just tons and tons of illegals here, all over the place, just nothing but illegals. We're drowning in them. And they keep on pouring over the border. Thanks, Trump. Fuck you, Trump. Think of how little tolerance Americans would have for this illegal immigration if there was not a glut of housing. Think about this, the millions, the dozens of millions of vacant units that were sitting around the country. That's vacant housing. Someone needs to fill that up. And there were people then with money that would want illegal immigration because it creates more demand for their housing. I think the dot-com bubble, I think the housing bubble, in part, served not only to enrich the Jews through their speculative boom and bust and their forewarning on when things were going to go up and when things were going to go down. I think there was also a larger purpose of the long, protracted real estate bubble. It was to create all of the surplus housing that would make this country able to absorb so much replacement population, so much illegal immigration. And that's my thought for the night, beyond just my thoughts on the Russian situation and how Russia doesn't need to attack to win, they just have to not get attacked. Where did all those immigrants go? Throughout the country, there's still surplus housing beyond California. Once these people all get amnesty, they're going to get sick of being here and paying $3,000 a month in the middle of nowhere in California. The housing prices are out of control. It's $1,200 for a one-bedroom, even far away from the Bay Area. California is unaffordable, period. And the white people are running like crazy trying to find housing around here, and they're not finding it. But if there's an amnesty, or they drop enough anchor babies, they spend enough time here to become citizens through anchor babies, there's that surplus housing sitting all over the country that will be there to absorb the illegals as they're dispersed over the country. Interesting when you think about it. Have a good night. And, Wells Fargo has been giving me trouble about the new bank account for my 2020 campaign. I've been trying to open up the bank account for close to a month now. And I need to get on the phone with them. I think on Tuesday I'll have time. But if you sent donations to the campaign, I'll be cashing them once Wells Fargo opens my bank account. And at corporate, they're dragging their feet. The guys at the local branch have been doing their jobs. They've been doing good, but it's Wells Fargo wants more paperwork from me. And I'll call them. But if they're shutting down individuals' accounts at Chase for being conservatives, wouldn't it be something if Wells Fargo wouldn't let a presidential candidate open up his campaign account with them? Oh, be quiet, kitty. Anyhow, I've had a long day of house hunting inland, so I'm going to go to bed. Those were my thoughts on foreign policy with Russia and what the Russians need to do to beat the Jews, which is really just wait and not let the Jews start a war with them. And also my thoughts on the housing bubble and the ulterior motive they could have had by creating an environment conducive to vastly overexpanding the housing supply 10, 15, 20 years ago. Have a good night. Vote Little in 2020.